I remember a time in my life when I struggled with insomnia and sleep paralysis. Um, I struggled past tense with insomnia for a multitude of reasons, and stuff like that, including fear was probably I would probably say fear was like the number one reason. Why? Because my mind would race. My mind would I was thinking about everything and nothing at the same time. And when it was time for bed, it was like it would just keep going, keep going, keep going. I'm just restless. And it would take me such a long time to go to sleep, and I would just try to tell my mind to be quiet, and I would try to think of nothing and see, maybe this will help or something. Tell yourself think of nothing. It didn't help. You know, it didn't help, honestly. Um, and I remember, you know, I think the scariest part was already having a hard time falling asleep and actually resting in through the night and not waking up in the middle of the night for random reasons. Um, and then taking forever to fall back asleep. But um, the scariest part was trying to wake up and being stuck. I remember being a little girl and being so frightened by the dark that if I were to fall asleep, well, not even that, but I couldn't fall asleep with the lights off. I would have to fall asleep with the lights on, and my father would turn it off. And then if I woke up in the middle of the night and the lights were off, I was paralyzed by fear. Um, and it was like I couldn't move. It was almost like I was fighting something I couldn't see. And I've always had these supernatural experiences since I was a little girl, but I didn't come directly from a Christian, know the Bible, Holy Ghost filled household. I wake up in the dark and automatically I close my eyes because I was afraid. And I would try to convince myself that I was like, I don't know, I just felt like maybe I was in danger or something. I would try to convince myself that it was fine. There's nothing there. I'm not looking at anything. It's just a piece of something. It's not gonna move. But I would be so gripped by fear that even though my eyes were closed and I was trying to convince myself that, it's just a piece of jacket. Piece of jacket. It was just a jacket, nothing that can actually physically harm you. But fear was so strong. It would literally paralyze me in the moment, and it was almost as though it's like I couldn't move. I was afraid to move, but I had enough bravery to yell I called my father Papa, right? I had enough bravery at 8 years old to bang on the wall because I knew he was next door, but also to repeatedly say his name as loud as I could. I wasn't saying it often. It was like I would say it every few seconds. It was like I had to build up the momentum to scream. I call it an episode. I don't know what it's actually called, so I call it episodes of sleep paralysis. You feel like you're there for a while. You, in reality, may be there for maybe a minute or two, maybe 5, but you feel like you're there for 30 minutes, an hour, 2 hours, and you you either can't move at all or you only have a small level of mobility. Your lips are heavy. If you've ever experienced sleep paralysis, you know what I'm talking about. But I remember just being so restless for such a long time, and I think for me the fear started from childhood, right? But the insomnia didn't really start until I moved to Virginia, and it was like it was a I think it was for multiple reasons. It was a life switch from California to Virginia. It was a life switch from seasons. In San Diego, you don't really have like our winter is like a fall maybe, um, but like a early fall. And probably the coldest it would ever really get would be probably around this time of the year in Virginia. Um, but we moved in the fall season, about to be winter. So now I'm experiencing a level of cold that I've never experienced, because if you know me, I was born in West Africa. I mean, it's hot, okay? Like, I was made for the warmth. I don't care what nobody say. I was made for the warmth. Um, I remember in 2019, things started to change for me. My circle was changing, the people I was around were changing, my church changed. Things were just changing and very fast. And I remember at a time in my life in 2020 when it was basically, I was at a place where it was like I couldn't run from the things that I had been running from for years. I couldn't run from the family problems. I couldn't run from um, the emotional. I couldn't run from any of the things that I've been trying to shove in the back of my mind and be like, oh, I'm gonna deal with it later. I'll deal with it when I graduate. I'll deal with it afterwards. Like, I just need to get through school. And even though things were changing for the better, there was still a process I had to go through, right? And I remember just not being at peace. This peace was just, it wasn't impossible, but it was a hard concept, right? Because it was just like my mind was always going. I was a lot of the time restless. I was always just kind of wrestling with something. And I remember in 2020, in a time in my life where um, I I was out of school. I had to take the semester off. I didn't have a choice. I couldn't afford to be there. I had to go home where I didn't want to be at all. It just there was some things going on at the time that I just didn't want to go back home to, and it was like, not my worst nightmare, but it was just the last thing, the very last thing on earth I wanted to do and wanted to be, period. But I remember during that season of just chaos, I remember experiencing what I know now as, I mean, I knew back then, but I for sure know now as the peace of God, because I prayed for peace. I wanted peace, so I needed peace so bad. My mind was just, and the circumstances around me were not helping at all. And I remember it's like it's like being in a war and everything around you is like completely chaotic, but it's like you're sitting there unbothered, and not unbothered in a way like you just don't care, because I definitely care and I still engaged, but it was like I can't even describe to you what it felt like. I just know it was a place where I had to surrender whatever I thought I knew, whoever I thought I was. I had to literally leave everything on the floor in prayer and be like, Lord, if there's anybody who can help me right now, it's you. And I remember experiencing just this level of, I mean, I got in a car accident and I was I was fine. I mean, physically I was fine, yes. But I was fine. Like, I mean, I just knew. It was like I was so at peace in the middle of what for some people, especially being that it was 2020 and COVID and all these things, I was at peace in the middle of war. It was like this problem, this problem, this. But where I was, I had peace because I had to face the things that I was running from, right? But I wasn't facing them alone. Physically, I had somebody walking with me, but spiritually, the Lord was with me as well. But no, like coming from a place of restlessness and wrestling with things that were supernatural, um, the peace of God is out of this world. it's beyond what the natural can give you. You can be standing in the middle of a war and not be afraid, and know within yourself that you are okay, and know within yourself that all this chaos around you, I mean, unbothered. From what I experienced and what I know, that I know that I know, there's nobody on this earth that can tell me, that can look me dead in my face and sway my belief about the peace of God or even the supernatural in general. I'm sorry. I haven't come way too far to let you tell me otherwise.